Ko Kanwalji Singh Bakshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak on the second reading of Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, it is well established fact that Radio New Zealand delivers quality content to its listener. Mr. Speaker, I am a big fan of radio, and normally whenever I'm traveling, I prefer listening to the radio rather than to any other media. The technology is changing, but still I'm a big fan of radio. The 4 radio stations normally which I listen, I switch in between is Radio New Zealand, Newstalk ZB, BBC, and Radio Tarana. When I came to New Zealand in 2001, Radio Tarana was the only Indian radio channel available for few hours in a day, which kept us connected to our homeland. And I appreciate that from strength to strength, Radio Tarana went, and it's now the 24-hour Hindi radio channel, and very wide audience they have, and I congratulate that team. Radio New Zealand is one of those stations which delivers an unbiased viewpoint, and I normally listen to this radio station from time to time. It has got long history, Mr. Speaker. It was established as a public broadcasting in 1925, and at that time the funding was given through the radio licenses, and 25 shillings out of each license issue at that time. And then it continued, and as the demand grew, the company was established in 1931, where the government appointed New Zealand Broadcasting Board, and it was dependent upon the license fee. In 1936, the government established National Broadcasting Service as a government department, which soon added fully commercial radio stations also. After the war, New Zealand Broadcasting Service in 1962 was given a government department status. It was ended in 1962 and established New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation. During next 30 years, the system was changed numerous times, but public non-commercial radio service remain at its integral part. Mr. Speaker, some other facts which are very relevant today with the changing technology I would like to share with this House. In 2014, Radio New Zealand's live cumulative audience for national and concert audience was 484,000. In 2013-14, 3.5 million podcasts were downloaded. In 2013-14, Radio New Zealand's homepage reached 21 million viewings, and in 2014, unique users of the website grew over 50%. In 2013, again, on regular basis, RNZ mobile app grew almost at 62%. This I'm sharing with this House, Mr. Speaker, because the technology is changing. Nowadays, youngsters prefer using the different medias than the normal radios. Mr. Speaker, I inherited this habit of listening to the radio from my father, who used to listen to the radio all the time. At that time, there were no satellite televisions or much broadcasting on televisions. And I remember the last news broadcast used to be at 12 o'clock midnight, and he used to listen to that before going to the bed. And I inherited that habit of listening to the radio from him. Mr. Speaker, it is because of the quality of its program, Radio New Zealand remains the preferred radio station. Radio New Zealand provides content that some of the private broadcasters may not be able to do due to the commercial realities. In contrast, Radio New Zealand delivers its contents independently. By the way of this bill, Mr. Speaker, we want to ensure that Radio New Zealand continues to deliver quality, unbiased content to its listeners. Further, by the way of legislation, we also want to ensure that new media and technologies that Radio New Zealand intend to implement also allows to deliver quality and unbiased programs. Mr. Speaker, some of the previous speakers mentioned that the budget has been frozen and no additional money has been given to Radio New Zealand. But I want to appreciate the Radio New Zealand team, the technicians, the leadership for doing what they were given, and they managed their programs very well. I remember at one of the briefings we had from them at the Commerce Committee, they mentioned that the technology which has been developed at Radio New Zealand helped them to go further and use that technology within the budget so that they can improve the quality of the programs. Mr. Speaker, this once again shows national-led government's commitment to deliver better public services. I take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Minister Amy Adams for taking the initiative of progressing this bill. We have time and again shown how serious we are towards our commitments of improving public services in all areas, big or small. The current legislation is towards simplifying Radio New Zealand's charter. It makes strong statement on the purpose of Radio New Zealand and how its charter will deliver for the benefits of all New Zealanders. The charter, Mr. Speaker, was prepared after public consultation and well deliberated by the Select Committee. The committee, Mr. Speaker, received over 165 submissions. The committee also considered the existing charter and the legislation. After thorough analysis of all aspects, the bill we are debating today was introduced in the House in 2009. All this work has meant that we have a legislation that ensures futuristic thinking and best results for the public of New Zealand. Based on the review, Mr. Speaker, now we have a clause that charter to new and emerging technologies, which caters to the new and emerging technologies in media space. The world of technology is ever evolving, and now everywhere we see more and new medias in use. I mean that other day, watching the New Zealand-South Africa Cricket World Cup quarterfinal, I saw Doran flying over Eden Park, covering the entire match from an eagle's eye. And we thought that Dorans are only limited to the defense technology. In case the New Zealand radio, this clause will ensure that the broadcasters take advantage of the most effective means of delivery that in end provides the best user's experience. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the Charter foresees that New Zealand is now a very multicultural society. Keeping this in mind, the Charter states that the diverse forms of culture programming, including but not limited to drama, comedy, literature, and performing arts, that needs to form an essential part of Radio New Zealand's programming. Mr. Speaker, I remember once I asked the Radio New Zealand officials that what are their thoughts about the diverse communities and the diaspora of New Zealand. And they mentioned they are planning that in near future, as the community is getting diverse, they will have additional programs available like in Hindi, Mandarin, and Cantonese. I hope days are not far away when the technology will allow Radio New Zealand to have such programs being broadcast from their platforms. Of course, the modern day era requires that there be a balance between providing social contents and the ability of the organization to earn commercial revenue from its operations. Amongst its various social obligations, Radio New Zealand remains our go-to station in case of any civil defense emergencies. The legislation permits Radio New Zealand to be able to market their products and services such as broadcasting and media services.
I'm sorry to interrupt the honourable member. His time has expired. Members, this debate has concluded. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill, second reading.
This bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 2.